Thank you, everyone. Welcome to this amazing security conference. I'm so excited to be here for the third time as a presenter, but the fourth time as attender. So today I'm going to talk about, let's say, two approaches, the reactive one and the proactive one. But more of my emphasis will be on the proactive side because we as defenders, and beside the fact that I have a lot of expertise on offensive security, my mindset is always trying to protect our assets, trying to protect our resources and everything, because beside that, there's no point always to break stuff and to make things worse. So my talk today will be focused on the predictive insight, but also on the red teaming tactics, how they can help us to fortify our defenses. I did the same mistake. Please work. Does it work? Oh, okay. So, my bad, Rio. You were right. Quick disclaimer, please do your own research. Don't take a lift and shift approach. My suggestions are more for your research. Check your environment, check your stuff before taking everything that I'm saying here for granted. So who am I? Have a lot of experience in both defensive and offensive. Actually, I'm working as incident commander at Palo Alto, but lately I joined the Dutch Institute of Vulnerability Disclosure, which is an amazing community in the Netherlands, focused on trying to find researchers all over the globe. So we scan the internet, we find exploits, and we disclose them, and we take the information to the right people. Beside that, I'm a right back defender for Arsenal. It's a football team in the Netherlands. Funny thing though, we decided 2 years ago to have a picture every time we win. In 2 years, that's the only picture. So we jinxed it. Beside that, I'm very passionate about motorcycles. Recently, I joined the motorcycle rider. We go around Europe. It's quite an amazing experience. Please work. Yes, this is the agenda for today. I'm going to start with some challenges that the defenders have nowadays and what these challenges are being taken by the attackers as an advantage. A quick sweep on the defensive landscape, where they can start, where to start, where to go, and specifically the pyramid of pain, which is my favorite framework. And then topic number 3, what attackers are doing in countermeasures, because we are telling them something that they are using and leverage, and also there's a specific example. Then her name was mentioned before by the keynote speaker, and a specific case study on Rubles, which is a tool written in C#, used quite heavily in the wild to use or to use Kerberos ticket and to misuse, let's say. And then how to proactively detect it, specifically for one specific use case, the low and slow Kerberos thing. This is a technique that I've used myself during engagement. And while creating, let's say, the mitigation and detection, I actually shot myself on the foot because I detected myself. But that's the reason we do these things. And finally, my pet project that I'm doing in my home, trying to build, let's say, a more predictive defensive model, and I'm going to go there, why I'm thinking that way that I'm thinking. So, the defensive challenge, what's going on nowadays? So, everyone wants to be connected. Everyone wants to have the phone. Everyone wants to have the emails. And nowadays, the infrastructure has completely shifted to everything needs to have the internet. The Office suite needs to have the internet. A lot of endpoint tools need to have uninterrupted access to the internet. Even Active Directory screwed us at some point. We want everything on the cloud nowadays. And every time we talk with blue teamers, always the topic is alert fatigue. So there's a lot of alerts, we don't know who's what, and we sometimes, let's say, consider them a false positive. Even big techs are not helping. I've spent quite a lot of forensics myself trying to identify something malicious, and at the end of the day, one of the big techs was using an expired certificate, and actually they confirmed it that this is how we do it. So it's a mess. But please work. Florian Roth, one of let's say the researchers that I quite follow, put it very well. So the problem is not that the malware is trying to look like legitimate, but it's the software that does the same things expected by the malware. So for instance, the process injection itself. So malware uses it to do persistency, to do anything malicious or to evade detection, but there are legitimate software like automation tools, EDRs, that they use it as a normal procedure. So how can we differentiate between those? Nightmare. But the community is helping. It's helping a lot. You have security posts, blogs, companies. We have amazing representations here. BSides, conference, right? Everyone is helping as much as they can. But there are some topics that they need to be addressed. So is it hitting the right audience? So is this session that I'm telling right now is hitting the right audience? I mean, on the good side of it, not to implement it proactively and properly. And is it hitting the audience fast enough? So as soon as I say, please do this, or someone says, not only me, please, don't just listen to me, takes this and implement it, and yeah, it mitigates it. And is it implemented in the right time? So I want to bring more case study specifically. Her name actually was mentioned by our keynote speaker. She is a very good security engineer and security researcher for Google Android security. She moved to Project X, but we're not here to talk about Mehdi. But Mehdi, at 2018, she presented an amazing talk about reverse engineering, specifically Android malware. Yeah, don't quote on me, or I'm not specifically interested on that part of the exploits, because Java for me is a nightmare. But she mentioned, let's say, the techniques that the malware itself was doing. So the native interface, anti-reverse techniques, those things I know, in place, and 40 different runtime checks environment. So what happened? In 24 hours, the malware itself changed, or the author of the malware itself patched those techniques that she was talking on that talk. And actually, she mentioned this in a Darknet Diaries, something that I follow eagerly in a daily basis. She mentioned that in less than 48 hours, they told her that the malware itself patched itself, removed all the techniques that she talked. So in less than 24 hours, someone was in that talk, listening to her, or even knowing that she was going to patch those things. So scary, right? So defenders should increase their effort. So they should, let's say, be one step ahead of the malicious actors. And where they can start, it's always start from the basic. You cannot expect to go and hunt the APTs and kill all those bears that Microsoft tags them, or the UNCs that the APT tags are. So start with basics. Start with the passive understanding, and passive meaning that this kind of frameworks very helpfully, let's say, provide you a good starting point. So the CIS, the ISOs, the NIST, starting with the basic. Do you have an EDR? Implementing EDR and so forth. Doesn't matter if it's configured at all, but it's there. At least out of the box, it's going to help you. And then move a bit up to the ladder. So the active simulation and emulation frameworks. We have MITRE, we have the cyber kill chain, Diamond model. There are a lot of unified other frameworks that can, let's say, help you mimic what the actual attackers are doing. So at least you have a proper, let's say, step-by-step procedure, what they are doing right now, and to see, are you protecting yourself? Are you preventing those actions? And so you can be safe, let's say, on that front. And then the strategic disruption part, which is not more a reactive approach, in my opinion, but it should be on the reactive one. So the pyramid of pain, which is, let's say, the pain being, let's say, pushed toward the attackers for them to go as high as possible to implement new techniques, so the defenders can block them. So if you move from the hashing value IP addresses, which are the trivial and easy ones as defenders to implement, you force them to go higher and higher, and the more annoyed they are, the less effort they put. But if they are persistent, they are persistent. So don't take it for granted that as high as you go, you are going to make them, discourage them. But no, definitely, they are persistent. That's what the APT, the P on the APT stands for. But our goal as defenders should be the tough one. The TTP part, trying to push them as high as possible so they can make noise, so we can detect them and prevent ourselves and protect ourselves. So why defenders should increase the effort? Because, we have our EDRs and everything, but are they working? Are they implemented enough? And are they effective enough for us to be protective? I would say so far, all the blog posts that we are hearing, it's crazy out there. So I'm taking the reference, I'm going a bit back. I'm not saying 2025, 2024, but I'm going on the 2021 report from DFIR, which was talking about the Diavol ransomware. So this ransomware has this attack frame, chain, the phishing email through a link, and then it moved around. There are some beacons, and the whole story about it, the whole narrative. So the DFIR reports build these IOCs, which are indicators, but not specifically as you can build from a threat report, like hashes and IPs and domains, and then you push it and it's fine. But it goes a bit higher. It specifically mentions file names or URI on the C2 beacons, which are being used, or any user agent. Well, you name it. The reports are amazing. I highly suggest you to read whenever they post something. So going back to the pyramid of pain, which is, let's say, something that I, leverage my work a lot, is trying to match these IOCs to the pyramid of pain. So moving back, this is what we do as a defender. Usually we see this report, and I'm hoping someone is doing this specific task, and then match them specifically. So as I mentioned before, we need to push them as high as possible, the attackers as high as possible, so we can make noise. I left intentionally TTP because the TTP itself is more like a storytelling. But this one, the tools and artifacts, everything below that, can be a bit more tangible or usable to create our rules or to create our detections. As I mentioned, the TTP is more like a storytelling. So you build the whole chain, but it's kind of difficult to say, okay, I'm going to I'm going to block the OneDrive link. You cannot do that. It's a business requirement. You cannot block RDP. You cannot block Kerberos. You cannot block any of them. But then I'm going to go back to the TTP itself and how we can, let's say, be a bit more proactive. But let's go to those specific IOCs that we can use them immediately. So what we do, we get these IOCs. In the report itself, there are a lot of sigmas, there are a lot of Jira rules, and what we do, we push them toward our SIEM SOAR and everything. And what is being seen nowadays, and my work at Palo as incident commander sees that, the blue teamers are standing. So it's fine, we implement this thing, we are safe from the Diavol ransomware. So, but they are still getting attacked, they are still getting hacked, so what's the point? But that's why I'm saying that the message should always be a bit more proactive. This report, as I mentioned, was public, and normally the attackers can see that, and they can say, okay, you are blocking me on the URI. Maybe I need to do something. You are blocking me on the domain, or specifically on the Rubeus tool itself, like the parameters, the names, and everything. So what should I do? So the attackers can counter move, and actually I've been using some of them. Rubeus itself is a C# based tool for use of a Kerberos protocol. The Kerberos is a ticketing process, more like a quick 101. It leverages tickets in order to authenticate system, users, machines, and everything. There's no clear text or hashed password being passed throughout the entities. So it's amazing as a protocol. It works, but there are some flaws, and some flaws cannot be patched, unfortunately. Going back to the Rubeus. Rubeus is an amazing tool. It's part of the Ghost Pack. It's available free, and you can do whatever you want of the tool itself, download it, patch it, and never. This print screen that was taken, I think, 2 days ago, it means that this tool is being constantly updated, like 4 days ago, so it can be used. And the manual itself is like 32 pages. It's amazing, with comments, so all dreams, any developer's dreams, for what specific command is doing and everything. So it's the best tool for Kerberos. So I use Kerberos as a tool for my case study and try to match specifically this tool to the pyramid of pain. So how we do it? We have this kind of fork, because the domain and the IP addresses are not specific to the tool, because there's no C2 command going on specifically for this tool, not for the whole attack chain. And I can map them. The Rubeus hashing, straightforward. The string itself, based on the documentation, everyone can build those Jira rules and everything. The tool itself has the name Rubius, what it does, what it uses, how it operates, and the narrative of the tool itself. So what are some of the techniques that the blue teams can use or can see when Rubius is being used? And Rubius is a tool usually triggers when you have requests, spikes a request. Sometimes an attacker lower the request for the encryption of the tickets because the tickets are encrypted. From AES 256 to RC4 and so forth, the golden tickets and everywhere. So if you match all of them with the TTPs, so let's start going one-on-one and to see what are the attackers doing. Changing the file hash, straightforward. As I said, you had the C# code, it's there, just changing, it's very trivial, just changing one comment, the file hash changes, so your protection for the hash is gone. There's another hash in the neighborhood, you are not seeing it, it's called forward. Let's go one layer up, and this is my favorite, and I actually have used it successfully in many purple team exercises. The strings. So people say, yeah, but they changed the rubius.exe to qq.exe, but they didn't change the parameters. So I went one step ahead as attacker thinker and went back on the code itself. So not specifically changing from Kerberos to Kerberosting or something more specific, but trying to mimic the svhost.exe, which is one of the most annoying services running in Microsoft, and it spawns everything, it goes everywhere. So for this specific, let's say, technique that blue teamers are focusing on the command lines and parameters, I completely, let's say, mimic or change the code, the assembly name, to mimic the SVC host. It ran successfully, it provided the output, and it was not detected. And actually it was amazing that it was detected because the security, it was not detected, not triggered. It triggered an alert, but it was tagged as false positive because it went, the analyst went and saw, let's say, the file version, the product, and everything was mimicking the actual Microsoft software, but it didn't pay the attention on where it was running from, the directory, not specific this one, the program data, it was another folder, but when he saw the -k, -netsec, -p, yeah, it's SVC. False positive, it's done. But yeah, if it was had been a more serious malware or ransom, an encryption payload malware, it would have been more devastating. So this is how, let's say, malicious actors are evading this as well. And then, last but not least, when the tool itself, how it operates, when it runs with the approach of leaving network artifacts or host or everything, if it runs from the memory, then it's gone. You don't have anything. This is specifically from the payload that is running. Sorry, the dropper. The dropper that is running the tool itself, which sends LDAP session toward Active Directory, because this is how the whole interaction with the KDC of Kerberos works. And you can use it also as an IC. So it's gone. There's nothing. No, all those rules that you just built, they went away. And then you need to leverage the EDR, because the EDRs check the memory, check everything, and different ball game. So they went up on the TDP. And then let's move on the TDP, the pointer of our amazing pyramid. So they said, we are building spikes, we are checking RC encryptions, we are checking tickets with long validity, because the golden ticket, usually they say is like 10 years, but nowadays attackers are being a bit smarter, and this is what they do. They come in, they list all the Kerberostable users, so they don't go ballistic and Kerberos the environment and do a lot of noise. They go and retrieve all the list of users, which is not something that is being detected today. And then they go with the lowest low approach. So they pick up one user, they build scripts. I have also built scripts to trigger one Kerberostable user every 30 minutes, every 15 minutes, depending on the environment. Because as I said, it's very dependable on the environment. So, On the first thing, they see, oh, maybe Frederica Candy is using only IS, so I don't need to lower to RCE because they are going to see it as a deviation. So they build properly the request to focus on the encryption being used, the validity being used, which is 10 hours, not 10 years, not anymore. And then they go one by one. They go for MS SQL server, they go for HTTP, they go for FCL. They go low and slow, and they can stay there the whole day, and then they can retrieve all the hashes. And I've been used as well, and I not went undetected. So they reach the spike. What's your move, defender? What do you do? Something that say that I've done specifically for the low and slow is creating more a statistical analysis approach, but I will go there after I explain what the defenders should do. They should think, let's say, how to break the whole attack chain. So going back to the Diavolt ransomware, there was a whole story behind that. So day one, they did the whole thing. They did this, they did that, which I mentioned, you cannot go and block DLLs and ISOs out of the blue. And then day two, they went and they did this, RDP, Rubus, NetScans, whatever. And then day three, they implemented the whole thing. So how can we break the chain as a defender and specifically take in each one of these stages and be more proactive? So don't wait when everything is ransomware, everything is encrypted, to do something and to say, oh boy, we did something. And everything is there. So these DFIR reports, it's not that someone came in and the attacker itself came in and told them, look, this is how I did it. There are logs, there are evidence. They went in and they did the whole, let's say, timeline, when the attacker came in, what the user clicked, how they moved. The whole thing is evidence. So it's there. So why use it as a reactive one and not a proactive one? So specifically for the low and slow, I've leveraged this specific Kerberos attack, which is, let's say, kind of very difficult to block, to detect, because the environment is very dynamic, very changing, very volatile in every institution. But the very best advantage that the defenders have is that they know the environment better than the attackers. So if you know the environment, you know how normal looks like. So one of the techniques that can be used for this low and slow Kerberos techniques being used from the attackers is to create specific baseline and come up with these outliers. One of the approach would be, let's say, to collect everything, tag something on the daily basis, and then when you see an outlier for user accounts, for requesting tickets in a high number, a specific service account which is not being seen in the last 7 days, anomaly like a Linux box request in a Microsoft SQL. I know today Microsoft SQL is supported by Linux, but as I said, it's highly dependent on the environment, but it's not on a daily basis you see it. So I've implemented this on Splunk, highly successful, but the main code, the main line of the query needs to be adapted on the environment. You need to remove something that it's whitelisted, not whitelisted, but the rest of it, let's say the building of the charts, the deviation and everything should be, let's say, specific to this approach where you collect, and let me go through the code one by one. So the first code, as I said, it needs to be adjusted to the environment, collects all the requests specific to the Kerberos ticket, the service tickets, on the daily basis, and then they group them on the daily basis and specify a maximum number. The event starts, calculates the average on the daily basis and the standard deviation for these requests. And then it builds this kind of graph. It's very nice, in rows, but it can be also on a graph. And then you build this deviation, the z-score. The z-score for each day specifies, let's say, what's the deviation from the mean number. It can be higher, it can be lower, but we are looking for the higher one because that's where something malicious is. And then we are looking for a deviation higher than 2 because 95% of the data should be within the +2, -2, but we are looking for the higher spikes, not the lower ones. So with this specific technique, as I said, I shot myself in the foot because I implemented an environment, tried the same attack technique, I was detected, and yeah, life goes on, life is good. But where we go from here? We sleep, we don't. So What about breaking the attack chain even sooner? As I mentioned, we were on day 2 of Arubis. Why go a bit back in time, but not on the day of the attack, the day of the finalized attack on the active objective, but even sooner. So why not build, let's say, a predictive scoring system where if something is seen on the environment, if the user does something, it assigns a score, a risk score, which is based on something anomalous, and I'm using some use cases here, but they can be easily adjustable. So and those scores are quite volatile. They can go up, they can go down, depending on what's normal. But why don't use this score when the user, for instance, Bob, does something, the environment sees it as malicious, he assigns a score, but not a trigger specifically. And then based on your internal processes, you say, if something is 80% or 60%, I need to do something. But in order for that entity or user machine, doesn't matter, to reach that 60%, it needs to do a lot of stuff. There's a risky tool, Mimikatz, for instance. There's anomalous TGS, Kerberos tickets being raised, and everything. So this is my project, let's say, what I'm doing right now. And this is my environment. So this is my company, Control Alt Defend. It's everything being built in my home is server, ES6 with scripts and everything. And we have Bob, Alice's friend. He's an account manager. He's working Monday to Friday, this timeline at 12 his lunch. And he is fully operational. On the background, everything is scripted, is running. Bob is logging in, logging out, logging the screen, is doing everything. He's sending emails, accessing Facebook, LinkedIn, accessing the internal CRM through HTTP or SMB or whatever the environment is. And there's also an IT installing occasionally and uninstalling software. So everything that he's doing is being collected through a Sysmon agent, and then through a PowerShell script is being sent to an HTTP server, and this environment is completely outside, like out of band, and through a Python parser, it's being ingested to a supervised machine learning engine. I chose a random forest classifier. For me, AI, unfortunately, is not my big thing, but I'm trying to learn it. I'm trying to get up to speed of it. And then it triggers or it spits a predictive score. And how can this predictive score be generated? So, I come in as an attacker and I do one small thing. I log in in a usual hour. So, the predictive score does something and says, a score risk of 2%. It's nothing. There's nothing to go with. And then I come in and I access a URL that was not accessed before. Then the risk score goes up because it had the login unusual within a day or within a process that is baselined on your environment. As I said, based on my environment, if Bob does an unusual login and access URL, my environment triggers a risk score of 10. And then I come in and I save a file in the program data, which is usually something not something malicious. Risk scores goes 10% up. So maybe not there yet, and we are talking about tasks that are done on day 1 of the ransomware attack chain that we mentioned. And this is something that we are trying to break, the day 1. So, and then I go and perform the Kerberos thing. I go in and I do, the installing of service as a non-admin and everything, and then the score goes 80. And then I need to do something, because this is my policy, and I say, I need to block him, I need to do whatever I need to do. So, this is my project. It's getting quite good results, because you cannot go and everything, do it in one day. And you need data. You need a lot of data. You need a lot of time in order to determine the baseline. And random forest classifier is very good decision-making, machine learning algorithm. It's based on trees, so it builds a lot of trees and takes the decision based on the decision of those trees. So it's kind of a voting system. But yeah, it's very nice. It's free, of course, and then you can build on top of it. So this is something that I built. I'm hoping for next year to have, let's say, a foolproof presentation. But yeah, this is let's say something that we defenders should go aim for, and not say, oh, he logged in unusual hours. Oh, alert. Oh, something wrong. No, 99% of those times it's going to be a false positive. But if you be a bit more smart on leveraging this information and building a more concrete, we can predict what might happen in the environment. So With that said, I want to give, let's say, final thoughts of my talk. Please be proactive. Don't stand, as I mentioned, as usually blue teamers do. Implement those hashes and say, oh, I'm done, I'm fine. And then please do not use the data just to learn about the past. Use them to predict the future. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you, Adi. Does anyone have any questions?
Please, no.
So, first of all, it's impressive to see that you work in Palo, but my question is more on blue team side. I can see a lot of,
Sorry?
On blue team side in our community, Kosovo or Chypre, and I can see a lot of people make kind of shortcuts. And for example, in order to understand how to detect something suspicious in Kerberos, you need to understand what Kerberosing does. Exactly. What is your advice to, I don't know, blue teamers overall in community?
Yeah, always, as I mentioned, focus on the basics. So, for me, indeed, since cyber came up more like a blast, so everybody's doing cyber, and I said, I have the background as a technical guy, I need to, let's say, match it with the cyber. So it gave me a lot of, let's say, advantage knowing the protocol, knowing how SMB works, knowing how Kerberos work. Because in order for you, let's say, to protect yourself or even to attack yourself, you need to understand how it works. So what the ticket itself does in a daily basis in the Kerberos as a protocol. So my advice would be focus on the basic, don't skip, don't go, I'm going to be a cyber guy. You need to move network systems and then match them, but the mindset should be the right one in order to, let's say, reach that level for the blue teamers to be successful. But the basics would be my go-to. I always say that everywhere I go. Focus on the basics.
No shortcuts.
Definitely no shortcuts, because in the end of the day, it's going to be a big headache.
Thank you.